So why are we here? I think probably all of you know why we're here. In May and October in 2012, we had two ditchings overseas, which led to, firstly, the industry suspending flights. And when I mean the industry, it was everybody, helicopter operators, production operators, and everybody else said, until we find the root cause, we're not going to fly this again. We were very, very fortunate and aligned with our own regulator, who came at exactly the same time to put in their operational directive that said we couldn't continue flying in hostile terrain, which meant the North Sea for us. And that left us in a situation where all EC225s for us were withdrawn from service. And the commitment and how we manage that going forward. What Step Change said back in October was very clear. We would not support a return to service unless we had a definitive root cause. And workforce engagement must remain at the very heart of what we're doing. So that as we go through the process, not knowing how long it would take, workforce engagement and communication must be one of the prime commitments. And we've done a lot. We can always do more, but we've done a lot over the past nine months or so. And today is about very much bringing that into context and why we, as an industry and HSSG, believe it's safe for the aircraft to return to service. The diligence, the due diligence, and the scrutiny that we've applied, the level of alignment we've had over the past months, and ultimately what's happening next in terms of the commitment to safety for everybody else. So this will give you a chance to see on the journey that we've been, what happens next, and actually ask questions. We recognise there's concerns out there, and to ignore that would be, just absolutely pointless in our regard. But ultimately, we have spent 9-10 months working on this, and we need to try through these sessions to instill the confidence that we have to you and understand why we feel it's okay to have made this decision. So that's what we're trying to achieve today. Nothing more than that. So we're going to give you a basic overview of the status, what kind of happened, the investigation findings and the cause of failure, the solutions that support a return to service, where our regulators have played their part, the level of additional assurance that HSSG and others have applied, our position and the barrier model and how we're explaining it's going to work, and some forward outlook. Now, I'm not going to do this on my own. I think that would be entirely uninteresting. I think that to listen to me is not the best option. I have Alan Chesterman and Tim Glasspool. Alan works for Apache, Tim works for Bristow's. They are co-chairs of the HSSG. And actually at the far end, I've got Jake Malloy, who sits on the Step Change leadership team and is also one of the key members of HSSG. So this is an aligned position. So what we have is the industry safety body, production company, helicopter company, and trade union all working together to try and help communicate this. And that's the purpose. So we're all going to speak today, and there's an opportunity to ask questions at the end of the presentation. And that's kind of where we'll be. So just to give you a rough idea of the journey we've been on, 10th of May and 22nd of October. The first incident, there was a belief that there's a crack formed as a result of a part issue on the vertical shaft. The regulator position was that we could continue to fly, and on the 22nd of October, we realised that that root cause finding was flawed, and as a result, we had to have a much greater response. HSSG came together twice that week in October and worked collaboratively to have a combined, aligned position all across the airfield, all across Aberdeen. I will say that HSSG has, and I'll use this word, we've had a global impact on the position we've taken. So what's happening to us in Aberdeen and the position we're taking is impacting the rest of the world, and they're looking to us for leadership and guidance. Now, that is not our role, but it's a consequence of the alignment we've had with helicopter operators, regulators, actually Eurocopter and everybody else. So we've had a huge amount of alignment, and that has had a consequence positively for the rest of the world, I think. I'd also like to point out that, if you have questions of your helicopter operator, they are in the room today. So we have all 3 helicopter operators represented, plus Eurocopter. So from day one, we've been in the room, and we'll continue to be in the room until the end. So we had suspension of flights in the UK and Norway and other parts of the world. So it's been a long process, 9 months or so, of very detailed investigation, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that. HSSG engaged some additional independent counsel as to why to give the level of assurance that we need. But we're at the point where EASA and CEA have given us the technical requirements in terms of safe return to service. And now it's about engagement. This is a really busy slide, and it's very difficult. This is not linear by any stretch. So when we see today and first DC-225 return to service, that could be 1 week, 1 day, 1 month, or longer. It's a very much a phased, periodic reintroduction as and when it's ready to go. So there is no ceremonial big lift going to happen at Aberdeen Airport. It's not going to be like the Red Arrows. This will come back as and when we do the logistics, the retraining, etc. So that's kind of the background. It's been 9 months of really aligned, joined-up thinking. Unprecedented in terms of industry response, but entirely appropriate to 2 ditchings in 6 months. So whilst this is, not normal business, it has become normal business for much of us. Alan, Tim, Jake, and myself, I think, speak almost daily about how we're managing this, as we do with all the other helicopter operators, and this process. There's been a huge amount of alignment and commitment to doing things right, not time-driven, not money-driven, but entirely right based on a gate management process and project management process. So we don't go to the next stage of the process until all the questions and assurances have been resolved at the earlier stage. So standard project management stuff for industry, so there has been no time pressure. So when we see dates like we'll return to service in May or June or July, that has never been a pressure that HSSG or anybody else has felt. It has always been about we'll go when we're ready and not before. So that's the other thing is that cost has never been a driver. At no point has anybody mentioned cost or production being a particular concern in this. Safety's been the only concern for HSSG. It's the only thing we're interested in. We're entirely independent and have no commercial model in this. And I think it's really important to understand that when you don't have to worry about cost and you don't have to worry about time, you can actually do things properly, in a proper, joined-up manner, and make sure everybody at the table has the same level of understanding before we go to the next stage. And that has been a real benefit of this collaborative working.